Welcome to the Coldwindfarm slide guide for Demogorgon specifically. In this guide I will give you sliding tips on Coldwindfarm, including all the 4 different maps listed here. I will not include rotten fields as it has just nothing unique about it. I will also be pointing out spots where you need to take extra care in maps when using your shred. This will be a part 1 update on the slide guide I made some years ago, since a lot has changed, and I will be going over all the maps in the future one by one. Let's start with the basics. Demogorgon can slide off most low-lying objects like straw bales and sandbags on Coldwindfarm. However, there are exceptions to this rule, so watch out. You can slide off totems and fire barrels just fine. There are sometimes fire barrels located inside loops. Just make sure you aim to the correct side when you shred and you will be completely fine. Let's take a look at some of the generic loops which can be found on most of these listed maps. First off is this normally strong tile against regular killers. You can slide off the straw bale right here. It's quite strong, twice than expected. If there is a fire barrel present, you don't have to worry about colliding with the green barrel. If it's not present, then you need to angle your shred like maybe just 10 degrees or 5 degrees more, so you don't end up colliding with it. Next is this L-shaped loops with a low-lying straw bale on the side. This is quite strong and can easily land you some hits, as again most survivors don't expect this. You can also slide both ways here and both are completely viable. Next is another L-shaped but taller structure where sometimes a generator can also spawn. Here you can slide off the low-lying straw bale at the end of the loop right here. It's not as strong but can perhaps grant you an early pallet break or catch survivors off guard. Next up is a 2-structure loop that is quite interesting, if I may say so myself. One consists of a straw bale part and the other one a wooden structure. On the straw bale part, you can slide off both the left and the right side, but the margin for getting that slide is rather low. If you don't get the exact angle, you'll end up colliding with the corner, but this can actually land you a few cheeky hits and you will actually be able to sort of land past the pallet and the hayble sometimes. Now for the part with the wooden structure. As you can see, it's not only straw bales, but this low-lying wooden structure you can also slide off. Be aware though, if you slide the other way, you will end up colliding with a pallet. I will still say this is quite decent if you make the survivor loop the other way, or if they change direction on the loop to avoid the pallet. That way you will be able to go past it and actually hit them on the side where the pallet is not present. You can slide into this pallet if you aim far enough out, but only do this if you expect a pallet drop, as you would then basically snap to it. Next up is a minor loop that contains some sandbags on the side. It's not great, but the sandbags and the low-lying straw bale allows you to do a more angled shred into a potential survivor trying to loop this tile. The combine has a straw bale next to it that you can slide off in both directions. This is a bit useful, but not so much, as many survivors don't like to loot the combine currently. On the subject of the combine, be careful if you want to snipe when they go off the combine here and try to vault the window, as you can slide off to the opposite side. Make sure that you have ground contact the entire time doing this thread here. When exiting the basement stairs, you can actually slide off the lower part to get a potential hit earlier if they go for the window. This can be done on all basement stairs, by the way. On the shack there is a tarpaulin. You have to be a bit aware of this, as normally you can do about the 40-45 degree slide, but with the tarpaulin you will end up colliding with it. Without this tarpaulin, you could most likely end up breaking the shack pallet as shown here. Next up is the cow tree, and you have to be a little bit aware of the short side here. If you happen to do a 40-45 degree slide, you'll end up colliding with the window here. So either make the shred from the pallet side or adjust your angle on the shred here. Now for the specific maps with each of their own unique loops. Let's start up with Thompson House. Thompson House has a unique pallet loop on the outside of the building, where you can slide off the short side on the straw bale right here. It's quite a decent loop, as the loop is elongated both past and before the pallet. Just be aware that you can't slide off the back of the straw bale right here, even though it is also low lying. Let's move into the Thompson House. In the house you can slide off this tiny couch that leads straight into a brick wall. This is not too useful as most survivors don't really loop it this way, and even if they do, they're in a really bad position. Same goes for the table downstairs in the house, as well as the upstairs bed. One thing to note as well is that you don't have to be afraid of falling down a hole when you shred, as you actually go right past it and break the wall. Thompson House also has strong gravity walls, and you can hit survivors here if they drop down. You can also ledge jump off just fine, but you will also happen to be pulled down. Guides in the description if you want to learn more about this. Next up is Torment Creek, which has a unique loop outside the main building. You can slide off the tiny sandbags here. What I like to do is go wide on this loop and land a shred through the pallet. It's a bit tricky and hard to use, but you can land some cheeky hits here from time to time. It does require some practice though. Let's move to the inside of the building. The only thing you can slide off in the building is this metal barrel actually. Anything else you will collide with, even though it is also low lying. Also be aware of this wooden beam, it has cost me a lot of hits against survivors. The thing is, if you're too close, you will end up colliding with it. This is mainly an issue if you loop survivors from the long entrance. So when you loop it this way, just make sure to go a bit more wide when you do your shred. Next up is the Fractured Cowshed. Fractured Cowshed has a straw bale right here that leads either into a window or just a door opening. There is a similar scenario from the inside of the building leading into the window as well. It has some minimal value, but I thought I would show it regardless. Lastly is Rancid Abattoir, which sadly only has a few unique straw bales to it on the outside. They don't really have too much of a significant value, I would say, but I'm just going to show them regardless. What you can do is you can break the wall from a 45-degree angle if you're super close to it. If not, you'll just end up colliding with the door frame. That's basically about it on this map here. So that was the last map, guys. Again, I'm not gonna include Rotten Fields because it has no unique buildings like Rancid Abattoir, for instance, or Fractured Cowshed. So again, I really hope you enjoyed this. It took some time to make, and I really think it can make your gameplay a lot better on Coldwindfarm's demo. And I think Coldwindfarm is one of the best maps for him personally as well, especially for sliding as well, because you often think it's just the cars, but there's so much more. Again, you can watch the other guys if you have more questions, or you can just ask me, and let me know how this goes if you find it useful. And next one is probably gonna be Macmillan or Alter Haven. Yeah, stay fresh and take care.